We have this from the New York Post. U.S. Marshals told not to arrest abortion protesters at SCOTUS justices' homes. U.S. Marshals assigned to protect Supreme Court justices' homes following the reversal of Roe v. Wade last year were directed not to arrest protesters unless absolutely necessary, according to newly revealed documents. Senator Katie Britt unveiled a series of training slides used to prepare marshals for their assignments as she grilled Attorney General Merrick Garland at a Senate Appropriations Subcommittee hearing Tuesday. The slides instructed the marshals to avoid, unless absolutely necessary, any criminal enforcement involving protesters, and that making arrests and initiating prosecutions was not the goal of their being stationed outside the residence of the court's 6 conservative jurists. So I think, plain as day, you can see it right there. Someone showed up trying to kill Kavanaugh and his family. They said outright, no enforcement. Let them go. Let them do their thing. It's illegal, by the way. And the reason it's illegal is that I believe it was in the 50s. They said judges are not elected officials, or these at least, in the same way. And if judges cannot be free from political pressures, there is no justice, because that's how the court system works. So they said, in this instance, no protesting judges. These people are now doing it. The left is defending it. Someone tried to kill this man. And Merrick Garland is saying, you're free to keep breaking the law. Where's the...
But then he denied.
Where are the Republicans?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that was the problem, is that it took this long, too, to figure it out. Mm-hmm. Why? I mean, it would have been nice if you're Kavanaugh or his family to know this like a few months ago when it was happening. But the idea that Merrick Garland stood there today and kind of denied that he had any insight into this happening. There are training materials. Katie Britt, the senator from Alabama, is literally posting up these slides saying, here's what this shows. And he's like, I have no idea.
That's a bad sign for him. Like, why would you say I have no idea what these people who are directly in my chain of command are doing?
There's a point at which you're either incompetent or lying, but it's one of the two. Which one is it? I mean, you either don't know what's happening in your department,
or you're lying.
Because think about it, this isn't like, hey, did you know about the guard at the front gate? Right? I didn't know. Okay, well, there's 18 doors and there's a bunch of buildings. These are Supreme Court justices that are being threatened, and you're the guy that's saying, I'm going to send U.S. Marshals to augment the security. At some point, wouldn't you know about what they call the rules of engagement? Like, hey, what are you telling these guys?
Yeah, and what information was given to the justices?
Exactly.
Can you imagine being Brett Kavanaugh and saying, shouldn't I be able to move my family out of the area? I mean, if you don't think protesters are going to be, what's the point? You're just going to station them there so the protesters can be outside, terrify the family, potentially get more raucous, it could get more dangerous, and you're going to say that, well, we're going to avoid arresting them for as long as possible? Like, you're not really protecting them.
It's because
you're really gambling with their children.
Merrick Garland was supposed to be on the Supreme Court. At least that's what he's probably thinking. So he's probably smiling and laughing as this happens.
He's also pissed about the decision.
Well, of course.
Right? He's like, you know what? You want to vote against Roe? You know what? I don't have your back.
Well, he's thinking it should have been me. It should have been me.
And I wouldn't have. This wouldn't have happened.
Yep. He's probably sitting there
so he's
laughing.
Saying they deserve this.
Yeah.
Like, that's craziness.
I mean, come on. These people are clearly insane. Mm-hmm. So I imagine he's sitting there laughing about this, being like, you shouldn't have been there in the first place. It's your own fault.
This is so horrible. I have something I want to say that I'm not comfortable saying on YouTube. It's so dark. This is so ridiculous. I'm going to write it down and talk about it on the after show.
Well, thanks
so
for
now we definitely have to go to the after show.
Yeah,
but can I here's the other thing that I would just say that is interesting, because this has started to, whether or not it's a Supreme Court justice, it's a government official, it's a member of Congress. You talked about Matt Walsh. There's a point at which people start to say, I'm not running for office, I'm not serving, I'm not speaking out, I'm not, whatever it is, there's a level of which this is not worth it anymore. Mm-hmm. And you talk about Matt Walsh speaking out, Brett Kavanaugh serving as a Supreme Court, and so-and-so running for office, so-and-so serving in the government. At some point you say, this isn't, I'm going to shut up.
Mm-hmm. Whether serious or not, there have been people who have been like, Tim, you should run. And my response is, I could not imagine having all of the problems of fame and none of the money. Like, if you want to be in office in politics, I think you're nuts. Because Kavanaugh makes, like $270,000 a year. And he's got people outside his home threatening his family's life. One guy tried to kill him and his family. And I'm like, man, so you must really want that job and really believe in it to live that way. I mean, not just that. Look at the lies they spread about people like Matt Gaetz. Dude's not making a whole lot of money doing this. I'm surprised there are people who want it. Donald Trump lost money. His taxes only showed that as president, he was losing money and still giving away his salary. It's amazing. They were like, once we get his tax return, we're going to prove, he was losing money. He lost money. It's like, so you're saying he made a huge personal sacrifice to be president? Come on, spare me.
At the very beginning of this story, I missed a part of what you were saying about what Merrick Garland says he didn't know, which was these 6 guys' orders. Is that what it was?
No, there's these slides come out today. Katie Britt, the senator from Alabama, while he's at the subcommittee, basically puts up a series of training slides that they were given to the U.S. Marshals, right? And the training slides are basically saying, don't arrest these protesters as they engage with these Supreme Court justices. Tim's pointing out, like, it's illegal if you go protest at their houses, and there should be arrested. And the training slides are like, hey, hands off, guys. Don't do it. Just let them be on their way.
Outright telling cops not to enforce the law.
And then Merrick says,
and the cop said, you got it, buddy.
Right.
Don't worry. These cops, I got to tell you, man, this is where you get me right up to the defund the police, abolish the police. And we've talked about it before. These are the people who will pull you over for a minor infraction and say, tell it to a judge and give you no leeway. These are people that shut down businesses during COVID and arrested men and women for simply trying to sell coffee. And then when they're witnessing something overtly illegal on the books, they're told by the superiors, don't arrest them.
Can I tell you this?
You got it.
But I will say this, having talked to a lot of buddies of mine in law enforcement, this is the stuff that irks them. That they're like, I want to do my job. I cannot, they didn't get into law enforcement to stand there.
They could arrest them.
If that's what they're told, they can't.
Yes, they can.
Then they get...
Then they immediately
in
get
New York
released.
City, there are police officers. There's this funny story where this morbidly obese older woman walks around with no shirt on. And in New York, it's legal for women to be topless because of a equality ruling in the courts. And there are cops who know she's allowed to do it. They don't care. They arrest her anyway. They say, ma'am, put a shirt on. She goes, no, we're arresting you. Because in their mind, and then she sues and she wins every time. She's done it a bunch of times. It's a ridiculous story. The problem is these cops are cowards. They're absolute cowards, and nothing will convince me otherwise. These are the kind of cops that are like, they instructed me to shoot the dog, or they told me I had to arrest the old lady. I have no choice but to violate the rights of people because someone else told me to do it. I look forward to, if it ever comes down to hearings on COVID lockdown and the violations of law, we're having these cops come in and firing them and stripping them of their pensions and saying, now you can live in a cardboard box because you thought it was prudent to ignore your oath to uphold the law because your political boss told you not to enforce it. I won't play those games. And we need a politician. Maybe it's not going to be a politician. We need an elected official who the first thing they do is they call in the federal police officers and they say, which one of you did not enforce the law? All of you? You're all fired, and I'm going to see to it your family never sees a fucking penny. And they go, but I was told just not to enforce the law and let far left extremists go in front of judges' homes and threaten their lives. Well, that's too fucking bad for you. These guys, these cops, need to be the first in line to feel the punishment. Because as long as these cops are allowed to keep breaking the law, ignoring the law, or enforcing fake laws, the system is completely broken. When I see salon owners get arrested under unconstitutional edict, when I see churches shut down and police officers enforcing the shutdown of churches in violation of the Constitution, with Cuomo saying, even though the Supreme Court of New York ruled against me, saying I'm not allowed to do this, I'll just create another executive order and do it anyway. You know why? Because these cocksucker cops will absolutely enforce edict from these executives, even if it's against the law. Because no one will go to them as individuals and say, I will destroy you for enforcing this bullshit. People keep making excuses for the cops who are doing this. And if it's not the cops, it doesn't happen. If there were no police officers, there would be no unconstitutional lockdown. If there were no cops, there would be no churches shut down during COVID. And everyone gave them a free pass. When the cops went to that gym, Attilas in New Jersey, and arrested the people outside of it, or I think the owners got huge fines, got shut down. Everyone's like, well, I don't blame the cops. They're being told to do it. No, I blame them twice as much now. Because the worst thing the cops could have done, you know what they can do? They can say, if you're telling me to not enforce the law, I will not show up. I will not swear an oath to uphold the law and the Constitution and then have you tell me to break that oath. But these are oath breakers. These are pieces of human trash. I have no respect for them at all. And if it were up to me, and if I was ever in office, and I would request this right now, and I know no one's going to do it because our politicians are all cowards. I'm giving no respect and no benefit to any Republican because none of them will do it. I want them to take a single officer from that photograph, get their name, plaster it in Congress and say, I am coming for you. I am going to take from you your pension and your retirement. And I want your family to know it's because you refuse to uphold the law. If you come into this office, if you put on that badge and say outright, it's someone else's fault, I won't do my job, I will make sure you lose everything. Because if you don't want to do your job, this job's not for you. You can resign right now. No one's going to do it. No one's going to do it. Conservatives are going to keep licking the boots of these cops who bashed them over the head during COVID and who refuse to enforce the law to protect our justices. If the judges can't issue rulings because they're under threat of death, there can be no justice. And these cops are going, but it's not my fault. I was told not to enforce the law. Okay, then get out. Fire them. Rant over. Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.